Hello beautiful people, you're welcome to another tutorial. My name is Dolapo of Body Pleated. I'm going to be showing you how to make a beautiful design for a turban as displayed on the screen at the moment. Yes, I have the following materials to work with. This is the first thing is my cap, which I had made. I have a tutorial already on how to make this cap. If you have not seen it, please watch the video before this one. Okay, this is my cap base, pleated turban cap base. You can use any type of turban base for yours. It doesn't have to be exactly this. Now I have other materials to work with, like my satin fabric. I have about 1 yard. I have my net fabric. I have about 1 yard. I have my pattern paper to draw out my pattern. I have my wadding or breast pad. This is a little bit thick. It's not the soft wadding and it's not the thickest one. Okay, this is like the medium. So we also have our hat wire. This is our hat wire. We have UHU gum. UHU gum. We have our thread and needle. We have 2 pair of scissors, one to cut my fabric and one to cut my pattern paper. We have our measuring tape, we have office pins, and these are my patterns. As you can see, I'll be using the same pattern to cut my fabric, my net fabric, my satin fabric, and my wadding. So I'll be doing that off camera to save our recording time. How do I go about that? Just place your pattern paper on it like this and use your office pin to hold it down. Your office pin to hold it down to your fabric or your material. Okay, and you can use your pen if you want to trace it like this before you cut out, or you just take your scissors and cut it out straight like that. So I'm going to be using that to cut that out. Then we'll continue from there, both patterns. Alright friends, welcome back. As you can see, I've cut out the pieces of fabric and materials I need to continue. That's from my pattern paper. I cut out my wadding using the pattern, and I use that to cut out my net fabric. You need 2 pieces of your net, because one is going to be placed on the front and one will be at the back. So make sure when you're cutting the right side. You fold your fabric into 2 with the wrong side facing each other. This is the right side of the fabric facing each other like this. You're going to place your pattern on it and trace it out. So I did the same for my satin. I have 2 pieces here of my satin. The same pattern for this. I did the same for this too. I have 2 pieces of satin for this shape and 2 pieces of net for this shape, but just 1 piece of wadding or breast pad for each shape. So this is what we're going to be doing for each of them. I'm going to place my breast pad this way, and I'll use my UHU glue. I just apply little on it. I'm going to glue I put the same on this one. I've applied glue on my waddings, so I'm going to place this on it, my satin. Okay, the wrong side facing down. Place it on it like this. You make sure your glue dries a little before you go ahead with this step, so that it doesn't stain your fabric. So you're going to be doing the same thing for this. So you turn it this way and repeat the same procedure. You place the second one on it and cover it like that using the same glue. Just apply glue on this part and do the same. Now I've glued both sides. Can you see? Okay, so the next step is for us to attach our net fabric or our lace. You can always use any type of lace of choice. So I'll be attaching this. This is the right side. But if I'm attaching, I'm going to be placing the glue on the edges of the satin only. or the edges of the lace like this. On the edges only, round like that. Then I glue it to it. Alright, as you can see, I've glued them all together. Can you see? So the next step, that's both front and at the back. Now the next step is for us to cut off the excess. To cut off the excess fabric round the wording, okay? Just cut it off like that. Now, having done that, see what we have. This is what we have. So I'm going to just keep this aside and move on to the next step. The next step is this to cut out some pieces of fabric, which I already did. Let me explain. I'm using my raw silk fabric to continue with this procedure to make half bow flowers for our turban. Remember, this is our turban cap. I use raw silk to make it. So what is left is what I have to make this bow. I used 1 yard to make this turban. I just have some pieces left which I want to use to design it. So the measurement is 7 inches weight by 8 inches. I have 4 pieces of this. I also cut out my satin using the same measurement, 7 inches by 8 inches. So I'm going to place each of them. This is the right side of the raw silk fabric facing up. I have the any side of the satin too facing up. I place the raw silk on top of it and I'm going to fold it into 2 this way. Make sure the right side of the raw silk fabric is facing up. Okay, so we're going to fold it like this and I'm going to sew. Okay, instead of using a second fabric like I did here, you can just take paper stay. There's this light fabric called paper stay used in padding, just is interfacing, just a hard weight to your fabric. You can just place your paper stay and use your iron to stick it to your fabric, then just continue the procedure. So I'm using satin in my own case. I want this piece to have a little bit weight. That's why I'm doing this. So I fold it like this and I'm going to sew. I repeat the same procedure for other pieces. So I'm going to do all that, then we'll continue from there. Alright, so the next step is for us to attach our wire round this. And how do we do that? We're going to take our measuring tape and measure. Let me just use my needle to mark the starting point. So I'm just going to measure this round to know the length of wire that I'm going to cut out. Like that. So I have about 35.5 inches. I'm going to add an allowance of about 1.5 or 2 inches for it to overlap. So the wire I'll cut out for this is 38 inches. I do the same for this and I measure round. Just measure it round. I have about 34 inches there. I have 2 inches for it to 2 inches extra. Okay, so I'm doing 38 inches here and 36 inches here. If you're doing yours, please measure yours. It may not be the exact measurement I'm using here. So I measure my wire and I cut with my plier. I'm using the regular arc wire, not the strong one. So I just cut it out. So this is my wire cut out and thread. So I just start, I bend the wire to form that shape. I start from here like this. I'm going to sew it to it with my needle and thread. So I'm going to sew it round like that. So I continue to sew like that. I bend the wire as I sew. Just bend it to follow the shape as you sew. when you are sewing this one, you start from this side like that. Bend, when you get here, you bend the wire to follow the shape. This is what I mean. I start sewing from here. So when I sew up to this point, I just bend the wire. You can use your plier or the finger. Can you see? Just bend it to form this shape, and then you continue to sew like that. When you get there, you just continue to bend. When you get to this side, bend it again like that till you get to this point. So I'm going to sew all this off camera and we'll continue from there. Alright friends, as you can see, I've attached my wire to the edges of my two pieces, and where I ended the wire, this is where the wire ends. Can you see? I overlapped it. That's the first end of the wire. I sew it this way. So the second one over it like that, and it ended here, and I sew with my needle and thread the same way I did here. So the next step is for us to cover the edges of this piece with either a bias, the regular cotton bias strip, but for me I found it too tiny, so I want to decide to cut out a strip from my satin fabric to do this. Okay, I can use any of my fabric to do that. So if you're using a bias strip like mine, you just cover it like this. You can use glue, your UHU glue, and glue around. But or you sew, just place it on your machine this way, okay, and sew like that round. But I want to use my piece of fabric. Let me show you how to cut a bias strip in case you don't know. So this is what I have left from 1 yard of my satin fabric. You can use any of the fabric, either the net fabric or anyone you can lay your hands on while working. So I want to cut the bias because if I cut it straight, because of this, all this part that are curvy may not relax well. Yes, from here this way like this. So I'm going to fold it in form of a triangle. Any part like that, just fold in form of a triangle like this. This is the triangle. So from this edge I'm going to mark. Please ignore this, my markings. I was actually doing something else earlier. So I will just mark 1.5 inches. So I have 3 inches when it is opened up. So I'll mark 1.5 inches like this, all the way down. So I'm going to cut that out. That gives me my bias strip. At least it will relax better than when you're cutting it straight. It can be 1 inch, it can be 1.5, depends on how you want it, but I think 1.5 inches is fine. So it will be wide enough to cover edges of my pieces. So I'm going to cut that out. I have my bias strip cut out. Can you see? Like that. Okay, so this is what I'll be doing. I'm going to trim this off first. So I'm going to fold this way. Fold like this, like a bias, just like a normal bias strip. And I'm going to fold over. So this is what I'm going to use to cover this round. So it's better you start from here. So in case your bias strip ends somewhere here, it will be hidden because we're going to cover all this part. So I'll start from here like this. With my pins, I'll be holding them down together. So it's going to be like this. I'll use my pin to hold it down. I'll just fold it like that, and I'll use my pin to secure it first to my piece before I continue. Okay, as you can see, I have pinned my satin bias strip like that. I've pinned it around it. Okay, and I'm going to take it to my sewing machine now and sew while removing the pins. I've cut off the excess here, so I'm going to end it right here. Make sure that this raw edge is ending on the center of this piece, okay, on the center, because everything here will be covered, not on any of the side but on the center. So I'm going to repeat the same thing for this one. I'll sew my bias strip round like that. Okay friends, as you can see, I want to start sewing my strip to this piece. So this is where I place. I'm starting from the middle. I place it on like this, and I start taking off the pins while I'm sewing. The wire is here, so you just take it in like that and sew it round gently. Gently like that. So I'm going to do that round like that. Okay, for this one, for the leaf shape, when you sew it up to this point, it cannot continue like that. So we need to cut it, or you bend. Then you cut it off and then put it there, or you bend it and continue like that. You can do it this way. Just bend it and continue to fold the edges in and then sew like that. Or you trim it off and start from here like that. I'm just going to trim mine off like this. I folded it in like this. Fold it in, then we'll continue like that. Can you see? And we're going to continue to sew like that till I get to this point. When I get here, I trim it off like that. I continue like that and I end it right here. Okay friends, as you can see, I've covered the edges of these items with my satin bias strip, and I've sewn this one. I'm going to turn the wrong side in like this, and I'll be forming. So this I'll bring the seam to the middle. As you can see, I want to form something like this. So I have my crinoline. The width of this crinoline is about 3 inches. So we're going to be putting it inside here. Like this. Okay, so I just arrange like that, and I cut off the excess crinoline on both sides. Okay, so I'm going to fold this into 2, and with my needle and thread, I'm going to sew. I will run my stitches from here to here like this. After which I'm going to just tap. I just take my needle through like that again to secure it. I just take my needle and thread through again like that to secure it. So after you must have tacked very well, this is what we have. So I'm going to assemble this together. Depends on how you want to place it. The wire inside allows you to bend it anyhow you want it. So I'm going to bend it a little this way. Okay, I bend this one too a little this way. You can bend it anyhow. You can bend it like this. You can bend it like this. Okay, that's the excess of putting wire inside to make it unique. I'm just going to place it like this. Okay, and we're going to tack with our needle and thread. So I'm going to secure these two together with my needle and thread. After I secure my needle and thread, these are bows here, will be standing right here. So I'll just place them like this, the third one like this, and I'm going to tack them all together. So I've secured the first half bow loop to it like this, and put the second one and I tack it down to it too. I'm going to pick the third one and also tack it to it. So I have my turban on my mannequin head, and I'm just going to mark where I want to place. It's going to stay around here. Okay, you can use office pin to hold it. So I'm just going to place my design on it like this, and I'm going to secure it with needle and thread neatly. Okay, just place it anyhow. Make sure you're sure of how you want to place it. Okay, before you tack. So I'm going to place it right here. With my needle and thread, I'm going to tack it down, and that's just that. I just tack it down. I just tack it down to it. I'm done tacking it to my turban. So this middle part, you can just place a rose. You can make roses with your satin fabric, with any of this fabric here, and place it here to cover it. Okay, so I want to show you how to make a rose, which I'm going to attach to this part of my cap. Okay, so I have my net fabric cut out. You can use any of the fabrics you want to work with. You can use satin, you can use the one you use for the base, anyone. So the measurement is 25 inches length by the width 6 inches. Yours could be longer if you want a bigger rose. So this is what I'm doing. This is the wrong side of the net facing up. I'm going to fold this way. Okay, and from here I'm going to start sewing those stitches from here this way. I'll start sewing those stitches like this. My needle and thread, I sew the stitches from this end to the other end. So when I get to this point, I come this way, I continue this way, like that. Okay, and I pull the thread like that, and I'm going to tack it down. I'm secured the gathers there. I'll just end it right there. So having done that, from this end, you can trim this part off if you want to. Okay, and you can leave it. So we start rolling it like that to form a rose. We just roll it like this. Can you see? Let me show you again. From this end, you start rolling it like this. You roll it like that. Roll it like that. Then you bring this to the back. So that's our rose. Our rose is going to be sitting right here. So after you must have done that, you're going to secure it with our needle and thread. Okay, arrange it how you want it. Then you secure it with our needle and thread. With your needle and thread. So this is my rose. You can either tack it down to it neatly, or you use gum. So I'm going to be using my glue. I'm using my UHU glue. So I apply my UHU glue like that. I'm going to allow it dry a little, and I'm going to fix it right here. After I applied my glue, I decided to tack with my needle and thread. So I just tack, look at where the needle is coming, thread is coming out from. I just take it through like that backwards. So that's how I'm going to tack like that to the cap. Okay, I'm going to tack it, I'll secure it like that with my needle and thread, and that is it. Thank you so much.